Buckle up, my channel got a little too advertiser friendly. So welcome to my depression advice tier list. This is kind of a sensitive topic, but every now and then I like to do a video that might help at least someone. But just know that all of this is completely anecdotal as applied to me. I'm not a professional or saying this applies to you. And I'm going to joke about this. So if you're holding on by a thread and you're down to the last covalent peptide bond, please reach out to a professional. This video ain't for you. That's what's tricky about this topic. It's a really wide scale with many different symptoms. So you may relate most to me if you're in the same Goldilocks zone, somewhere in between having functional emotions and dead. We're going to start off strong by eliminating the entire S tier row. That's like saying there's S tier advice for what to do if you get a boar tusk impaled through the bottom of your foot. If you were a salamander and could just regenerate the foot, then maybe that would be S tier. But you're a human, so the best case scenario is still going to involve physical therapy, which works, but sucks. So no S tier. Now that we got that out of the way, let's begin. Just do things that you like. Oh, thanks, Todd. The whole problem is that doing things you used to like triggers no emotion at all, just an empty sea of fatigue. Classic D tier. Next up, seasonal affective disorder lamp. All the clinical research on these is for the big-ass versions, the one that take up like a quarter of your vision and make you feel like SpongeBob drying out on the driveway. So your light-up alarm clock isn't going to do shit. But this might. I'm going to put it in C tier, but it's no replacement for the actual sun. Other people have it worse. There are kids starving in Africa. Do you feel better now? But the second part of this is much more insidious, and that's where you tell yourself that other people have it worse as like a personal excuse to not accept help, like actively harmful. E tier. Fake it till you make it. This is one I love, and it's quite popular.
There's a lot of dads out there just white-knuckling it through life right now.
But it's going to have to go in E tier. If you let your outside differ too much from your inside, the numbness just takes over. Next, go to the doctor, take the meds they prescribe. Before we get into this, can we just comment on Midjourney's render of this scenario? It's perfect. The feeling of failure on this dude's face. Anyway, I'm going to give this A- tier after they get it right, which is a guess and check process. And I want to be really clear that this is not going to solve problems. It just might make it possible to experience positive emotion. So good place to start. Just don't only do this and change nothing else. Otherwise, after a little while, you'll find yourself in the exact same spot. Next, we have lower your expectations. You know what? Social media is a lie. Good things take a long time to happen, and the median salary for Americans 20 to 24 years old is under $37,000 per year. Scale back, one thing at a time. B tier. You want to minimize the gap between what you tell yourself you're going to do and what you actually are going to do. And you've got to approach that gap from both sides. I found that one way to do this is to define actual goals, like not just the main goal, but all the sub-goals, which when you break it down like that, forces you to be realistic.
This is Dream Crusher. He protects me from having unrealistic goals.
Ashwagandha. This super herb is supposed to lower cholesterol levels, fix depression, fix anxiety, boost testosterone, stop aging, increase fertility, and make your boomer parents love the real you. For me, it helped a bit with sleep, I guess. D tier. Next is running. Difficult to muster the energy to drag yourself to the floor of the shower. So how the hell are you supposed to go for a run? But you know what sucks about this advice? It fucking works. Start by just putting your tennis shoes on, walking outside, turning around and going back inside. That's it. Good job. Give yourself a little check mark on the calendar. Every check mark is a win. Eventually, you'll be able to jog for a few minutes. Don't try to go fast. I found that if I push myself too hard, I'd burn out and it does not become a routine. It's a solid B tier. Lifting. Same as running, except now you'll never again think of your body as being good enough. C tier. Find your dark why. It's kind of like that Cold War idea of using nukes to power rockets. You consciously take your shame and other strong negative emotions and use that as fuel to do something healthy. I found that if I don't consciously do this, my monkey brain will find its own worst outlet. B tier. Effort is key. Get off your ass and try. You see this advice everywhere, and it doesn't apply, at least for me, to mental health. Inside of your skull, you've got the biggest, fattest, most stubborn cow. Being kind and clever works better than forcefulness. E tier, because this advice often comes with a healthy dose of blame and guilt. Everything happens for a reason. Fuck you. Not everyone gets to look back and think, oh wow, that all worked out. This advice is the inbred cousin of survivorship bias. Alright, we're going to chill out, eat a moon pie, and breeze through the next couple. Consistent sleep schedule, B tier. Adrenaline, C tier. Move away from a place with a low, gray, oppressive sky. B tier. I know people have moved as an act of running away, and that didn't help them, but my move helped me a lot. Stop reading news, C tier. Escapism, D tier. Plants, C tier. Delete TikTok and social media from your phone.
They're coming for every second of your life. They're not even doing it consciously. They have to grow.
B tier. All right, back to the regular pacing. Give it time. The carousel of pain will just keep going until you cozy up and get all comfortable with it. E tier. Next is blame something. It's the fault of your parents or the fact your brain was set up to handle an active life and instead rests within a stationary body under incandescent bulbs running on coffee and online ads, interacting with hundreds of simultaneously zero people. Whatever it is. Unfortunately, blame isn't actionable and can contribute to learned helplessness, which is a very real, very dangerous thing. F tier. Get super into philosophy. This is E tier. You're not going to build a knowledge your way out of this. In fact, the knowledgey part of your brain is probably not helping. View things with a new lens. This is super vague advice, but it works really well if you find a way to actually do it. Examples that have worked for me are seeing the world through like a child or a pet. For me, this is B tier because in my view, awe is one of the only emotions that can cut through the empty. And seeing normal, mundane things from a new perspective can occasionally unlock that awe. Is your playlist all sad? Stop it. C tier. Next is therapy. There's a difference between depression, anxiety, guilt, and shame. And if you're like me, you never bothered to learn the difference because emotions are just chemical reactions, and I can pilot this damn human meat ship through a sea of any emotion. Yeah, eventually you do need to develop emotional intelligence exceeding that of a cardboard box. I'm going to put in A- tier because that's what you'll get if you find the right person. Do something creative. I find that this helps a lot. C tier. The logical next step is to just do the creative thing you enjoy for your career. And I've been lucky enough to do pretty close to my dream job. I discovered that for me, whatever I'm doing for work just becomes work. So I don't mean to discourage anyone, but I'm putting this in D tier. Next, I'm bundling like fame, fortune, success, winning the rat race all into this one thing. This has got to be A tier, right? It's just got to be. Well, I've been around a lot of successful people. Depending on how you do it, like climbing the corporate ladder may eventually make you bitter, particularly if you let lifestyle inflation absorb most of that extra money. And a lot of times the sacrifices make life lonely. At one moment of peak office job productivity, I remember being asked why I wore a jacket. I joked that I just didn't want them to see how poorly I'd ironed my shirt. The real reason was most days I had 2 hot packs stuck on my shoulders because the stress had gotten to the point where everything was frozen and I could only move my head a couple degrees left or right. I did crush that job though. D tier. Turn to God. For believers, you can't have a stream full of fish and then pray to God for food. He put the solutions in the environment for you. They're called therapy and medicine. And for non-believers, it's pretty obvious why this advice lands in D tier. It's like targeting broke people for your MLM scheme. Clean your room, son. My room one of the times where I was doing quite well. And this was at one of the times I wasn't. Some people are just cluttered and that's okay. But you can also take this advice as starting small and doing something little that immediately has noticeable results. And looking at it like that, it's C tier. Man, though, this diagram makes it look so much easier than it is. Meditation. First time I did this successfully enough to actually have a clear head, the instant I stopped, all the noise slammed down at once. And it was so aggressive and the contrast was so stark. I just sat there and stunned. So all I can say is that this isn't bullshit, but I just don't do this consistently enough to rank this. Maybe one day. Chiropractor. This one is bullshit, at least for this. F tier. Relationships. In high school, I have no idea what prompted it, but my AP Chem teacher looked directly at me and said, "Carter, one day you're going to learn that you actually need other people." I then proceeded to ignore that comment for another 6 years. A tier. Alright, I lied about A-. We're unlocking an A+ tier for Get a Dog. This has done more for me than directly altering my brain chemistry via medicine. Kind of forced into a standard wake time, you have to go outside for walks, and you've just got to be accountable. And that's just the bonus stuff. There's also a dog. So A+ tier. And that concludes my list. Thanks for watching. If you have differing advice, leave it down in the comments, and have a good day.